And now it's time for the Sports Kings from Queens.
Welcome back, sports fans. Today is Wednesday, November 6th, and welcome to the Sports Kings from Queens. This is episode 137. I'm Gino. I'm here with Darren, here with Kevin. You can catch us wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, and now follow us on YouTube and Instagram. Give us a look, join our page, subscribe to us all over the place. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to send us some questions, some comments. We'll be sure to respond to you. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get it started, guys. We got a lot of sports going on. We're going to start with the World Series. Ended last week as we signed off last week. Yankees were down 5-0.
Up 5-0.
5-0. They were down.
They were up. They were up. They were up.
Up 5-0. They wound up losing the game in Game 5. Dodgers reigned supreme as we head into that fifth. Judge homered. Cole pitched well. Flaherty's out after 1 1/3. Everything seems to be going well through 5. And then the fifth happens. Judge drops a line out. Volpe makes a bad throw to third for the force. Cole doesn't cover first base, or Rizzo doesn't go to the bag. And 5-0 becomes 5-5. Yanks go up in the 6th on a sac fly by Stanton. In the 8th, Dodgers get 2 to go up 7-6. Trinan and Buehler close it out, and the Dodgers win the World Series. Darren, let's start with you. We'll go around.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, obviously, this is a series that should have easily won 6. And to be honest, the Yankees blew Game 1, the Yankees blew Game 5, and they won Game 4. The other 2 games that they lost, 4-2, they really weren't in either one. So I feel like those 2 games were the Dodgers didn't blow the games like the Yankees did. Joe Kelly's been running around talking about, we knew we just put the ball in play, the Yankees would mess up. And listen, I'm not saying that's not the case, but it wasn't the guys that were the ones that messed it up. Aaron Judge didn't make an error all year. For him to look back to look the running back on a fly ball to center seemed weird. Volpe, he was a Gold Glover last year. He's not a bad defensive shortstop. He spiked a throw on the move. It was just a horrible move. It wasn't like it was Torres. It wasn't like it was Soto taking bad angles. It wasn't like the guys you expect to throw to blow it on the defensive end of the game. And that's what happened. Cole was plenty good enough. Cole pitched great. Cole showed up in both World Series starts. Cole earned his money, and he got it paid to him right after. So, Kev, you about to say something?
I was going to say, in our World Series predictions, we said that Cole had to pitch like the best pitcher in the series 2 times. And he did. He did his job. Game 1, like you said, he pitched great. Boone screwed up by not leaving Weaver in the 10th to try to nail down Game 1. And in Game 5, the defense let him down. And he also let himself down, not covering first. That's a basic play. You have to go to first base until you're called off. That's basic.
The ball had so much English on it. I don't think Rizzo could charge it. Plus, he doesn't move well as it is. It was
Rizzo wanted to make sure he caught it.
No, exactly. And then there's nobody there.
Yeah. He still needs to try to go to first base. I don't care if he's late going to the bag, but he can't stop and look to see if Cole is actually covering the bag. Even when he fields that ball, I know he may expect Cole to be there, but he's still got to make the stride at least to the base.
I'd rather see them run into each other than neither one of them get to the bag.
I agree. And Darren, each one of those 3 mistakes, right, in that inning, if they occurred in separate innings, we're probably not having this discussion. It's just that all 3 of those bad plays occurred in the same inning and failed to let Cole get out of that inning with a lead.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then even with all that, they take the lead back. They take the lead back 6-5. Stanton hits a sac fly, and then they fall apart again in the 8th. Hernandez gets the single to the left off Canely. Edman gets an infield hit. Smith walks, right? Then Weaver comes in. Lux hits a sac fly, so it's tied. Okay. Then Ohtani gets the catcher's interference to reload everything back up. Another sac fly by Betts, and they're down 7-6. The Yankees, they got the double by Judge and the walk by Chisholm with 1 out, but Stanton flied out and Rizzo Cade. And Buehler made himself a ton of money in the 9th with a lockdown 3-out save where it didn't look like anybody could touch him. Listen, Dodgers were so close. We all thought the Padres were going to knock them out. That's how close they were to get knocked out in the first round, and then the Padres didn't score a run again. But even in that Game 5, Darvish threw a gem at them. The Padres couldn't score. Then they kind of had like an offensive epiphany against the Mets, where every game was a blowout one way or the other. Went 6. Mets won 2 kind of big games, 4 runs, 5 runs, I think, or 4 and 6. And the Dodgers had their blowout wins as well. And this series, every game was pretty close. There was really nothing that was more than a couple runs. But the problem for the Yankees was that they made the mistakes and the Dodgers did not, and the Dodgers move on. G?
So normally I would have been depressed, and I was not depressed after this loss. I was disappointed. I was a little angry, but I wasn't depressed. I don't know if they were going to win the series. I was disappointed they didn't win Game 5. They should have won Game 5. Are they going to win Game 6 and 7? I don't know. It's a tall task to ask, being down 3-0, winning 4 in a row. So I don't want to come across like that. But I was really disappointed that they did not get this series back to LA. And then who knows what happens. That's fine. But to go down like that in Game 5 is just so disappointing. I can't tell you. I was, and listen, we all probably were a little bit, but I was just like, if of all the ways to lose, that's how we're going to lose on a 5-run fifth where Cole doesn't give up a damn earned run. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I was angry, actually. I wasn't as disappointed as I was angry because I felt like it was a series that was there for them to go 7. They should have won Game 1 and they should have won Game 5. And the Dodgers might have been the better team in the series, and I don't want to take that away from them. I think they were top to bottom, a little bit more consistent outside of the Cole starts. I thought the Dodgers had the better roster all the way through. You can count on their pen a little bit better, all that stuff. I think Boone mismanages. I think they take some bad angles. I don't think Roberts is very good either, by the way. It's not like I think Dave Roberts ran circles around Aaron Boone. It's just the way it kind of worked. I think they both suck. So that's kind of where we sit now. And now it's the Soto waiting game here the rest of the way.
So I don't think Cashman or Boone is getting fired. I want both of them out. Do you still want both of them out?
Yeah.
You think they would have been by now if they were going to?
Oh,
well, listen, I think Cashman has carte blanche because I don't think Hal wants to do anything.
I think them getting to the World Series kind of secured them both for another year at least.
Yep.
And that's just my feeling. Once they got there, I didn't think there was any way the two were getting fired. I just didn't think,
Yep.
I still want them out, though. That's just me. I don't think that they are. Listen, you went all in. You said you went all in, and then you didn't with the bullpen. They left a lot of things open in the 1 year you knew you had Soto. Because let's be honest, the Mets are going to bid the most money.
So
are the Yankees going to try to match it? That's really what it comes down to. Because you have the 1 year with Soto.
What's the odds on Soto staying a Yankee?
I think the Yankees are the second favorite behind the Mets.
So I think he's about a 40% chance as a Yankee. And I think there's I'm going to go just a little bit below. I think there's like a 37% chance he's a Met. And then the other 23% is a mixture of, the Dodgers, the Giants, somebody throwing $800 million at him or some ridiculous number. But I think that's, I think the Yankees hold the edge like this much and only this much because he played here a year. That's the only reason. Because other than that, I don't think there's any difference in the world. So, Kev, what do you think?
It's the same. Go ahead, Kev. Sorry.
It's funny when you said it. I have 40% in my head for the Yankees also. I was going Mets 50 just because Steve Cohen will not be outbid.
See, but I
want to go there, and then the other 10% for everybody else.
Yeah,
I'm going to disagree with you, Kev, because last year he got outbid. Until Steve Cohen actually outbid somebody, I can't. Everybody, he's a god. He's got more money. Until he actually wins one of these, I can't give him like the he won't be outbid attitude. But what I will say is I think that I do think that he will win them. I would give the Mets a 40% chance. I give the Yankees a 30% chance. Okay. And I give everybody else a combined 30% chance. Probably led with the Orioles, maybe the Cubs in there.
Giants.
Giants, but I don't think he wants to go west, but they'll be in it.
You got to throw the Dodgers in the discussion. I mean,
Dodgers will be in the discussion as well. You're right. I just think that I do think that Cone will actually win this one for the first time. But like the Yamamoto thing, he flew back to Japan multiple times by himself, and he didn't win them. Maybe Yamamoto never wanted to come. Maybe he was going to go to the Dodgers regardless. Maybe it didn't matter. But he didn't win. He didn't go out and outbid. It was probably a safe bet for him, too. I'm just saying. He didn't go out and win it, so he's got to prove that.
I think Yamamoto was more of a West Coast thing with the short flight to Asia. So
I also think he wanted to play with Shohei.
Yeah, I actually think that's a great point. So speaking of Shohei, he underwent successful arthroscopic surgery to repair a labrum tear in his left shoulder dislocation. He's expected to be ready for spring training, but obviously this puts a huge question mark on whether he will actually be a pitcher next year.
Well, it's his non-throwing shoulder, at least.
I know, but
you got to see what sort of impact. What impact does the recovery from the surgery have on him getting prepared to pitch? Yes.
Correct. I agree.
And the other part about it is you saw it in the World Series after he got hurt. He wasn't the same swinger.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't.
He was getting overpowered.
And, you take a look, they mentioned Cody Bellinger having his labrum torn in the World Series. It took him well over a year to really recover from that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He was a shell of himself for a year and a half, almost 2 years before finally breaking out. I mean, there's a couple of different ways this could go with Shohei.
We're going to find out.
Yeah.
Again, we'll get more into baseball as the free agency starts rolling, guys, but just wanted to do a quick cover up, really, right on the baseball.
Agreed. Yeah.
So the Dodgers are the World Series champions. First time since the COVID year, and before that it was quite a few years, 88. So it's been a while.
All right, we're going to head over to the NFL. We'll start with the Jets. So they played last Thursday night, beat Houston 21-13. They moved to 3-6. Jets snapped a 5-game losing streak with the win, highlighted by a remarkable one-handed catch by Garrett Wilson for a 26-yard touchdown that gave him a late lead. Aaron Rodgers threw 3 touchdown passes, including a 37-yarder to Devontae Adams. The Jets defense missed Houston field goals, sealed the victory. Kev?
Yeah, you know what? They got the win. In some ways, it was somewhat reminiscent of last year's Houston game. They beat them 30-6 last year. C.J. Stroud had his worst game of the year last year. And I think this year the same thing. He had a terrible game. Last year he was missing Tank Dell and Nico Collins got hurt early. This game he was missing Collins and Diggs, who was not on the team last year. So very much the same way. He was missing weapons, didn't adjust. The Jet defense got to him last year. They got to him this year with 8 sacks. Good job by the defense. The offense, really, except for the one drive in the first half, didn't do much. And Corley has to fumble the ball before he reaches the end zone. Come on, rookie. Get in the damn end zone before dropping the ball. Hand the ball to let's be like Curtis Martin. Score the damn touchdown, hand the ball to the referee, then go celebrate. You know what? That was ridiculous. They bounced back in the second half. The offense showed some life. Great. They got a much-needed win. But I still want them to see them put together a complete 60-minute game against a good team before I really buy in that they're over their issues. And that's really all I have to say about the Jets right now. That's all they deserve from me. Darren?
Well, again, huge second half, like we said. Rodgers, Hall, Adams, Garrett Wilson with perhaps the catch of the year. You saw the potential of what the offense can be in the second half because you felt like, wow, they can't cover Adams and Wilson. Breece Hall looked impressive out there. There was a lot of things to like. But then you also get that. You got 8 sacks, also great. We roughed the punter on 4th and long. We roughed the snapper. Worked out because they missed a shorter field goal, but we roughed the freaking snapper. Corley drops the ball on an early touchdown. First real touch of the year. Get in the freaking end zone. How stupid are you? It's like, the defense will be better with Reddick. You can see that because it frees them up to get back into coverage a little bit more. The corners were all back. Not that they were great, but they were okay. And they were able to roll out more coverage. Defense had a great game, but I'm not sold on them yet. I'm not convinced that this team is going to do anything. I know what they did was they kept their season alive for another week. Now you play Arizona this week, who no one thought much of, and now you're watching this team play on a week-in, week-out basis, and Arizona runs the ball well with Connor and with Murray. And the Jets do not stop the run well. So this is not exactly the ideal matchup for the New York Football Jets. I think they can cover their wide receivers. I think Arizona's defense is, average to below, but they'll have to blitz a lot to get there, and we'll see if Rodgers can read it. But the fact of the matter is that even though they had a win, they had to hold on 21-13 in a game that they should have won going away because Corley drops a touchdown. I mean, he just leaves it on the floor as he's walking in. I'll never understand how you don't realize where you are on the field. I'll just never get that. And now you say to yourself, okay, they beat a pretty good Houston team, and it is a pretty good Houston team, but it was 8 sacks against a very, very poor offensive line. Tunsil's not the same player. The interior 3 guys suck. So I don't know if Quinnen's back or if he was just going up against 3 guys that suck. We'll see. We'll see how they do against Arizona before we really can get too excited about it. Jake?
I have a question for you guys because I saw the catch. The catch was amazing. The fact he's able to just get his hand on the ball and secure that with his hands to bring it down is just unbelievable. But I have a question because I saw it and I didn't think it was a catch. And I need to ask you guys because when did a shin become the foot?
It's always been the same thing, by the way. The shin is always it's anything but your hand. So if your elbow hits, if your forearm hits, that and you're in bounds, that's what they listen. Okay. It's a weird thing, and it's so hard to tell that the shin is down before the knee. I mean, when they break it down that slow, you could say, yeah, I see the leg falling before the knee goes down. I didn't think it was a catch live. Okay. I was happy about it. Yeah. How do you compare it to Odell's catch, Gino? How do you compare it to Odell's catch?
It's the same kind. To me, it's the same kind of thing. I think they're both amazing catches. I mean, I don't think,
I just feel like they're much more common now. When Odell did it the first time, we hadn't seen anything like it. Now these guys practice these one-handed catches
I think the players now make it a point to learn how to catch a ball like that with one hand, that they're less uncommon than they used to be. I don't know if it's to the corner of an end zone or the side of an end zone that makes gets them a touchdown that they make a catch like that. But they practice more of that catching with one hand like that it's become more uncommon. Let's say it that way. So
sounds good.
All right. We'll move to the other New York team. That's right. Washington wins. They beat the Giants 27-22. They moved to 7-2. Giants 2-7. Jaden Daniels led the Commanders to the victory, moving Washington to 7-2 for the first time since 1996. Daniels threw 2 touchdown passes to McLaurin. Commanders defense forced key turnovers, helping complete a season sweep over the New York Giants. Listen, I thought they played a great game. I still don't think the Giants are very good, so I can't put too much stock in it. I love the way the team plays when Daniels throws the ball. Love the place. I'm I feel like I'm lucky to have finally gotten a good quarterback. It doesn't happen often. As long as we can keep him healthy, I feel like we're going to move in a great direction. Any comments on the game, guys? Darren?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Giants after this week, they play in was it Germany this week? I think it is.
Yeah.
And because that's important. After this week, no matter they win, they lose against Carolina, whatever it is, this has to be the last start for Daniel Jones. I think you go to Vito. I think you know what you have in Drew Lock, which is a less than good backup. I think Jones his first half stats were horrendous the other day. I mean, just horrendous. I mean, he had a touchdown pass and no yards. How do you do
6 for 0 yards.
4 for 6 for 0 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah. And a fumble lost.
He runs the ball well and all that type of stuff. There's just nothing to this. Some of it has to go to the offensive genius Dable, which I'm going to get to him in a second. Listen, when you look at this team, Neighbors is a player. Okay, he's going to be a player. They just didn't target him much in the first half. Got some targets in the second half. The kid Tracy at running back looks like he can be a player. I mean, listen, he's not gifted, but he's solid enough where you can live with him. But they lost Thomas again, Andrew Thomas again at left tackle, just as last year, and they have nobody there to replace him. They have no depth on this team. Somehow, and every Giant fan and every media pundit in this city sits there and kisses the ass of Joe Shane and Brian Dable like they've done something special, and yet one injury to this team, and they have no answer. Listen, the defense also doesn't stop the run last week. I mean, you got big guys up front. These guys aren't getting the job done. And listen, this is the cheapest, shittiest cover I've ever seen in my life. Go for one, Dable. You're down 23, 24, what was it, 23-15?
It was 24-10.
Yeah, I'm just saying, 24-16. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just trying to think what the score was.
Oh,
24-16, you go for one. You don't go for two. Why are you doing that for? And then the second time you have to go for two, they haven't hit a two all year. This game should have been a 3-point game, and I should have had my nice little freaking cover. All you freaking home, they didn't play that good, Gino. They were okay last week. The Washington didn't leave me impressed last week. They beat a crappy Giant team that couldn't stop the run and had a quarterback that threw for 0 yards in the first half. I don't know. What do you think? They did something amazing? I didn't think so. I think the Giants helped give them that freaking game. I think Washington's really good, and I think your quarterback is great. But I don't really think that Washington had their best game last week. I just think the Giants were impressed, and I wasn't impressed with them. I was less impressed with Dable. Dable's a moron. How many weeks are we going to do this stuff?
I am not taking solace in this. I think the Giants are bad. I thought the Giants were bad all year. I'm not taking solace in this game like it's some prize. We haven't beat a great team yet.
Listen, you got a chance to beat a good one this week in Pittsburgh, and I that's going to be a fun game. But Dable's an idiot, and Shane is unprepared to have this team, ready to go. And now we punish the Germans by sending them Carolina and the Giants. It's like a punishment. All right, Germany, we don't like you anymore. So Merkel, here's what we're sending you. We're sending you two of the crappiest teams we have in the NFL. We're going to send you two quarterbacks that if they combine for 300 yards, it's a big day.
Yeah.
Here's your sport. Kev, any thoughts?
Yeah, the stupid analytics where you're down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Go for 2 because that gives you the best chance to win. That improves your chance of winning from 42% to 42.5% or some shit like that. It's like, you know what? I'll rip a coach later in the recast for not going for 2.
Me too.
But in this case,
I'll let you do it first.
Take your damn point. Make it a touchdown. This way, the second time around, after the field goal, it's still a 10-point game. You take your point then, and you cut it to a field goal. And guess what? Yes, Washington did a great job of running out the clock, but at least at that point, you still just, if you make it stop, you're a field goal from tying it. You're not looking for a touchdown and only a touchdown to win. I mean, just take your damn points when you can.
Missed 2-point conversion ends the momentum of your team. It also hurts that. You just scored, get your 7, cut it to the. I mean, it's just bad football, Kev. Just bad football.
We just keep complaining about this 2-point. All these guys going for
the Giants almost every freaking week. It's Moron Dable that does this every freaking week, and it just drives me crazy because they act like the old coaches didn't know what they were doing. And I'm sorry, the old coaches knew exactly what they were doing. It's the new coaches that don't know what the hell they're doing.
Well, now the extra points from the 15, therefore it's a little harder. Now you're only
making 33-yard field goals. If you can't hit that, it shouldn't be in the freaking league.
Exactly.
And the Jets had that all year. So there you go. And even the first extra point by Patterson hit the upright. Let's be honest. It wasn't like that was smooth either. Anyway.
One other point on Washington. So at the trade deadline, they acquired cornerback Marshawn Lattimore from New Orleans.
It was a good move.
Gave up some picks, but they had extra picks, so it's okay. They had 9 picks in the draft, so good. I said a couple weeks ago they needed a corner, so I'm glad they went out and made that trade. Kev?
They had the extra picks, especially with Daniels on the rookie contract, showing that he's the real deal. This year he's cheap against the cap. The next 2 years, you can still keep him at the cap number, knowing you've got that room there. Great.
Agreed.
I mean, and you're picking up a terrific cornerback, which they so desperately needed.
Your biggest need, basically. Your biggest need.
I agree.
You're one injury away from making it the O-line, but until that, cornerback was your biggest need.
Yeah, I said it 2 weeks ago. If they're going to do something, I hope they go out and get a cornerback before this trade deadline. So
and
they paid a little bit, but they had to because everybody was going after Lattimore.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because Dennis Allen got fired. New Orleans is having a fire sale. Well, they didn't really have one, but it looked like they were going to, and all that fun stuff.
All right. A couple other games. Let's just hit. So Detroit beat Green Bay 24-14. They moved to 7-1. Green Bay 6-3. It's the first outdoor game the Lions have played all year in rainy conditions. Lions showcased their resilience with the win. Kirby Joseph's 27-yard interception return and 2 key fourth down touchdowns. Victory pushed the Lions to 7-1 for the first time since 1956, marking their third consecutive win at Lambeau. Green Bay outgained Detroit in yardage, 411 to 261. They continue to play this way all the time. Darren?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think Detroit played really well. they won it. I mean, I thought Green Bay gave them this game. I thought Green Bay, again, everybody, they had a drive right before they scored their last touchdown where they had 2nd and 1 from the 11. And then they threw 3 straight passes to try to get the first. Rather than getting the first down, they were running their stupid play calls. Love's interception before the half that for 6 really kind of turned the tide on this game. Green Bay was the better team watching throughout. Detroit, again, it was 4th down plays. Otherwise, they could have gone either way, so to speak. Not taking anything away from Detroit. They're great, but this was not their best game.
Agreed.
The week before, they killed Tennessee with 50-something points, and Goff barely had to even break a sweat. This week, I think Green Bay kind of handed them the game. And you know what Detroit did? They took it.
Yeah.
Road game in those weather conditions, especially a dome team on the road like that. I know they're from Detroit, but still, they're playing outdoors like they're not used to. You know what? They got the win. I don't care how you do it. They got the win.
Yeah, absolutely. Detroit at the trade deadline also acquired defensive end Darius Smith from Cleveland. So that should help make up for the loss of the injured guys that they have right now.
It's not quite Aiden Hutchinson, but it'll help a little bit.
Well, who is at this point?
Very
Maybe
few.
Very
few.
Three other players in the league. So, all right. Kansas City beat Tampa Bay 30-24. They moved to 8-0. Tampa Bay 4-5. Mahomes threw 3 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt scores a touchdown in overtime to give KC the win. Hopkins 2 touchdowns with Mahomes. Bowles for Tampa Bay had a questionable call as Mayfield threw a touchdown with 30 seconds left. He elected to kick the extra point for the tie instead of going for the 2-point conversion for the win. And this following the drive where he just went 10 plays, 81 yards for the touchdown. Darren?
Go with Kev first. Go with Kev.
Go for the damn win. Go for the damn win. You're on the road. You have a chance to beat a team that's not beaten yet. Why take a chance on the coin flip in overtime, giving the ball to Patrick Mahomes? You have a chance to win the game there. And like you said, Gino, it was 10 plays, 81 yards. It's not like it was a quick lightning. Oh, my goodness. This was time-consuming, lots of plays, lots of yardage. You've got a defense on its heels. My wife and I were watching the game, and she turns to me and says, are they going to go for 2? I said, it's Todd Bowles. He's going to chicken out and go for 1. And that's exactly what he did. And that's Todd Bowles.
They're 4-4. It's not like he needs the win to secure a playoff spot. He just lost his two major wide receivers the week before.
Yeah, no Evans, no Godwin.
Go for it.
And they've got a chance to win the game right there. Go for the win there.
I have a simple rule of thumb. In the fourth quarter, late in the game like that, and you're the road team, and you're the underdog, you always go for 2. Because the odds are the longer the game goes, the team that's favorite or the team that's home has a better shot. And since it was a home favorite that they were playing, you don't want to extend the game. All it takes is one play. Bowles blamed it on the weather, saying he wasn't sure about the weather conditions. Your quarterback just led your team down the field. And I say this about Mayfield. I picked on him about it the last 2 weeks. But for some strange reason, this guy in the last 5 minutes of games seems to get everything to click no matter who's playing. I mean, he can play like crap for 3 quarters. Not that he played like crap this week; he was fine. But he can play less than stellar. And then on these big winning drives, he finds a way to get down the field. One thing that the Chiefs didn't do was address the cornerback situation with their big injuries, and I think that's going to be something that could come back and cost them. But let's be honest: we watch this team every week a little bit. They're on primetime almost all the time. This is not the most impressive undefeated team you've ever seen this deep into the season. They find a way to win, but they don't win it. They don't beat anybody big. Hopkins is a great addition. It's only going to make them better. And you feel like Hopkins and Rashee Rice is going to be a magical combination in the future. But, right now, they don't seem to have the horses on offense to be dynamic. They're getting away with running the ball and Mahomes being efficient. And this week he actually threw some touchdowns, but usually not the case.
Yep. All right. Atlanta beat Dallas 27-21. They moved to 6-3. Dallas 3-5. Dak injured, Lamb injured. Dak going to the IR, by the way. Baltimore beat Denver 41-10. They moved to 6-3. Lamar had 3 passing touchdowns. Henry had 2 running touchdowns. 41-10. They put a beating on Denver. Chargers won a game. They beat Cleveland 27-10. They moved to 5-3. Winston was not very good in this game, 3 interceptions. Cincinnati beat Las Vegas.
I was going to say, over the 2 weeks, you had the full Jameis experience. The big game last week to beat Baltimore.
And then the horrible game
this week. That's the full Jameis experience in 2 weeks for you.
And the Chargers are defenses for real.
26 for 46 with 3 interceptions this week. So
that's what Jameis Winston always will be.
Absolutely. Cincinnati beat Las Vegas 41-24. Burrow 5 touchdowns. Cincinnati's won 4 of their last 6. They're trying to sneak in somewhere. Buffalo beat Miami 30-27. Bass hit a 61-yard field goal with 5 seconds left. Gave them the win. They moved to 7-2. Miami 2-6. Darren?
2 things come out of this game for me. Number one is Buffalo really isn't that good when you watch them play. They're an average offensive team. They're an average defensive team. They're not great on either side of the ball. Josh Allen's great. I'm not trying to take that away. But there's nothing else really that comes out at you when you watch him. And Tua is a difference maker for Miami in a dramatic way because that offense actually looked like they were moving the ball. So even though Miami is probably out of it with where they are, they're a team that no one's going to want to play down the stretch either.
Oh,
they just play them twice, don't we?
No, we do.
One other comment. Baltimore, by the way, at the trade deadline, acquired cornerback Tre'Davious White from the Rams. That should help shore up their defense too. Tennessee beat New England 2017 in overtime. Carolina beat New Orleans 23-22. Arizona.
Dennis Allen got fired after the game.
And, it's amazing. 7 straight losses after putting up 90 points in the first 2 weeks. I mean, talk about a team that just severely overachieved the first 2 weeks and then just crashed hard.
Yep. Yeah. Arizona, they beat Chicago 29-9. They moved to 5-4. Darren?
They crushed Caleb. Caleb looked lost.
Yeah.
There was the one play that was really exciting where Caleb was scrambling and the wide receiver, I'm blanking on, DJ Moore, just ran out of bounds and just went to the bench while the play was going on. I don't think I've ever seen that in my life. He was scrambling toward his side. DJ Moore kind of stepped out of bounds and just left the field. I mean, I've never seen that in my life. He literally quit on the play,
Arizona,
Crazy.
by the way, their 3rd straight win. So,
yep, they're playing well.
Minnesota beat Indianapolis 21-13. They moved to 6-2. Minnesota was down 7-0 at the half. Donald threw 3 touchdowns in the second half for the win. Philadelphia beat Jacksonville 28-23. They moved to 6-2. Barkley had 2 touchdowns, 159 yards running, 40 yards receiving. He also made some amazing play on a run where he leapt backwards. Darren?
It was probably the best play athletically I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen anybody hurdle somebody going backwards and then get hit and then fall forward for another 5 yards. The thing about the Eagles, they kind of remind me of the Bills, but all the talent, they just don't. I mean, they didn't put Jacksonville away, and they could have. They were up big, let Jacksonville right back in this game, and that's what and listen, Brown got hurt during the game. I get that, and we still have Devontae Smith, you still have Saquon, you still have Hurts, and the offensive line is somewhat healthy, and for some strange reason, there's something that's just not right about Philadelphia. It really puts Washington in. Yeah, well, I wanted him fired last year. You liked him. You were a Sirianni guy, Kev. I am not, but I always thought he was a prick. You were always like, no, he seems like a good guy.
Was I? Okay. I don't remember.
Last year you were high on him.
Last game is the Rams beat Seattle 26-20 in overtime. Rams have now won 3 straight. They moved to 4-4. Darren?
The thing about the Rams is you see the talent also on offense when everybody's healthy. I mean, Nakua got thrown out in the second quarter for throwing a punch, which I always love when somebody punches a helmet. But when you see Kupp and you see Nakua and you see Allen, a tight end who's pretty good, and you have Kyron Williams, and you even have Corum, the kid out of Michigan, as the backup running back. and Robinson at wide receiver is the third receiver, and there's so much talent on that team offensively. If the old line could ever hold up, this team will be dangerous. We'll see what happens. The NFC West is a logjam right now. Everybody's kind of within a half game of each other. So anything can happen there. It looked like the Rams were left for dead at 1-4, and now they're back in it a little bit. San Francisco hasn't gotten their stride yet. Arizona's playing better than anyone thought. Seattle got off to the great start, and they've kind of come back to earth. But it's going to be a real exciting division all the way through, I think.
Two teams were on the bye this week. Pittsburgh, San Francisco. Both acquired plays at the trade deadline. San Francisco brought in defensive tackle Khalil Davis from Houston, and Pittsburgh acquired defensive end Preston Smith from Green Bay, as well as Mike Williams from the Jets. The other two trades, Cincinnati brought in Khalil Herbert. We think Moss has got an injury, so Herbert's going to come in to back up and play with Chase Brown. And Dallas acquired Jonathan Mingo, which I didn't get it all, but they didn't give up a lot. I guess that's the one thing, but I don't see where he helps that team at all. So
to be honest, it was. I mean, they got Mingo in a 6 or a 7 for a 4. I thought they gave up more than I would have.
They got Mingo in a 7th for a 5th round pick.
I thought it was a 4th. Okay, 5th. Okay.
So NFL. So Thursday night this week, Ravens will play the Bengals at home. Giants, we said they're in London. They play the Panthers. That should be a barn. That should be a barn burner at 9:30 in the morning.
If the Germany sees that game, are they going to declare war in the U.S.?
They may. They may, Kev. Cardinals home for the Jets. Couple other games. Falcons play the Saints. Commanders and the Steelers should be a good game.
Yeah.
Chiefs play the Broncos at home. Do the Bucks put up a fight against San Francisco at home? And probably one of the other games is the Lions are at the Texans. That's probably the one of the games of the week anyway.
It's not a great lineup this week, guys.
No,
I mean, Pittsburgh, Washington's the most intriguing game. The other ones you mentioned all have some promise to them, except for the Jet and Giant games.
Lions Texans were flexed into Sunday night, replacing that Jets Cardinals game.
No, the Jet Colt game was the one replaced.
The Jets
Colts. Next week.
Oh,
yeah.
next week's okay.
Next week, the Jet Colt game got flexed out.
I'm sure at the beginning of the year, Cowboys home for the Eagles would have been one of the big games, but we all know that's not going to be a big game anyway. So
absolutely,
specifically now with no Dak. So, all right, that concludes NFL for now. Darren, let's start it off with some college football.
Okay, we're going to go conference by conference. Me and Kev are going to discuss. Gino's going to jump in. Let's start with the Big 12, and I have one word for the Big 12. Chaos. The only team that didn't fall apart was BYU because they didn't play. Okay, Houston beats Kansas State 24-19. Horrible weather in Houston, but K-State led 19-10 in the fourth. Then they throw a pick, a 9-yard drive, cuts it to 19-17. And then Houston's Zion Chris goes 41 yards on the touchdown run to win it. Chris, as the quarterback, was also 11 for 11. K-State now goes from a team that looked pretty good to the outside looking in, Kev. Any thoughts on K-State? You want me to go through all three, and then we'll go through the discussion?
Go through them. Yep.
Absolutely. Texas Tech, who's been a little bit of a surprise. They beat number 11 Iowa State 23-22. Taj Brooks scored from 5 yards out with 20 seconds to go to give them the win. They didn't get the 2-point conversion, but still they go up 23-22. Iowa State now, to me, looks like they could be on the outside looking in, with leaving just the Big 12 with one team. BYU is the only team that didn't have any problems, and Colorado actually didn't have them either because neither team played. So those are the four teams in the Big 12. And now suddenly, Kev, who do you think is still alive? Who do you think is in or has a real shot to get into this playoff?
Well, obviously BYU being undefeated still has a great shot there, even though the committee only has them at number 9. So they really don't value the Big 12 at all this year. Iowa State, Kansas State, and Colorado are all down between 17 and 20. I think 2-loss Kansas State, 2-loss Colorado. I mean, they're going to have to make the championship game and win the championship game to make it into the 12. The only other team with a chance is probably Iowa State.
This
week, they're going to have to win out.
Yeah, this week Colorado visits Texas Tech. All of a sudden, that becomes a huge game for Colorado, because if they don't win that road game, they're out. And they're a road favorite in this one. And then that Farmageddon game we talked about last week when Iowa State plays Kansas State, that's another loser leave town matchup if everything goes as expected. Now, Iowa State not expected to lose at home this week. Kansas State was not expected to lose at Houston. So both of those things were a little bit chaotic. And the Big 12 right now, right now, even though we're an undefeated team, they might only get one bid. That's how rough it is. The other conference that went a little chaotic, Kev, was the ACC. Miami pulled away from Duke late, right? I mean, but you had something? Go ahead.
I was going to talk about the ACC a little bit.
Yeah,
like you mentioned, Miami is still the undefeated team. They're still in the first CFP rankings. They came in at number 4. They pulled away 53-31. Cam Ward, another big day, 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. So they're fine where they are. They look like they're a real good bet. I mean, especially with the rest of their schedule. They only have at Georgia Tech, Wake, and Syracuse. They should be favored in all 3 games. Assuming nothing strange happens, they get to the ACC championship game. They're in, I think, no matter what. It comes down to who they're going to play. Right now, SMU off a big win against Pitt, 48-25. I thought Pitt was going to be in the game. I mean, I took Pitt plus 8 points. I was shocked that it was this way. SMU outscored Pitt 24-0 in the second quarter to make it 34-3 at halftime. Ball game over. Jennings had a big game, 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brashard Smith ran for 160 and 2 touchdowns. That puts SMU now up over Pitt in the pecking order there. SMU is still 5-0, win the conference, 8-1 overall. Still, except for that Pitt win now, no other big wins. They have the bye week. They've got BC, at Virginia, and Cal. Again, nothing that they should be.
Only loss was the BYU by 3, though, which isn't a bad loss as BYU keeps winning.
Yeah, good loss. Undefeated in the conference. They don't play anybody else in the top. You're looking at really a good shot of Miami SMU in the conference championship game. And if that happens, that's probably the way that the ACC could get 2 teams in. Pitt now 1 loss in the conference. They're 7-1. Clemson with the shocking 33-21 loss to Louisville. This was even 26-7 after 3, so it was not a close game. They got 2 touchdowns in the fourth. But in between the touchdowns, they tried for the onside kick. Louisville recovered, 45-yard touchdown. Louisville controlled that game pretty much from start to end, and that puts Clemson now down to 23. Even though they're 6-2, they are in the CFP rankings now behind their conference mate Louisville, who just beat them. Louisville 6-3, they're at 22, and we had Louisville nowhere near the top 12. So Clemson was big time hurt by that loss.
Quick point on that game. Dabo goes for 1, down 33-20. I know they had no chance of coming back, but do the math, genius. 33-22 cuts it to 11, and you got a chance at a touchdown and a field goal if you do recover the onside kicks. You can't not know the score. You can't not know how to do freaking math, Dabo Sweeney. You can't. It's not that freaking hard. If I can sit there and watch this game and know what's going on, he should be 10 steps ahead and he should have somebody on that sideline telling him what to do. Now, I'm not an analytics guy, but I'm a math guy. And math is simple. You have to get 2 scores. You want one of them to be a touchdown and one of them to be a field goal. You don't want it to be 2 touchdowns. If you miss, it has to be 2 touchdowns. But you don't quit on your team, and that's what he did. Moron, Dabo Sweeney. Yep.
And now you're looking at, in a couple of weeks still, it's Clemson at Pitt. Loser leave town matchup, obviously, since they're both 18 or lower.
I don't even know if it's a loser leave town. I think Pitt got hurt by Clemson losing. Now Pitt, I don't know if Pitt has enough wins to get back into it.
Yeah, because the rest of their schedule is Virginia, at Louisville, which is a big game for them as well, after Clemson, and at BC. So, they do have a chance to pick up 2 wins against teams currently in the top 25. Maybe that gets them back up to it, but they really need SMU or Miami to trip up and try again to the championship game. That's really what it comes down to.
The only way they win is they get to the championship game and win it right now, to me.
Yep.
And Clemson fell apart, which was kind of weird.
But the loser is definitely done, 1,000%.
Absolutely.
So I think the Big Ten, a little less chaotic, but boy, the committee loves the Big Ten.
Oh, it certainly does. Oregon, number 1, they rolled at the big house this week, defending champs down to 5-4. Michigan's going to have to work just to be bowl eligible. Oregon heads to Camp Randall on the 16th, which is their really last big game. They host Washington at home at the last game of the season. But fact of the matter is, Oregon should roll into undefeated and get into the Big Ten, I should say, championship game. Indiana trailed at Michigan State 10-0 and then scored 47 unanswered points just to make sure everybody knew what was going on there. 47-10. Kurt Signetti, I don't even know what else to say about him. He's been unbelievable. They were picked 17th of 18 teams in this conference to start the year. They were picked 17th. This team has had the best year of their history. It's unbelievable. And then you get the big one this week. We had Penn State and Ohio State. And Ohio State, the 4, beats Penn State, the 3, 20-13. Penn State jumped on them 10-0 early in the first. A pick 6 of Howard by Tracy. He went the distance. And then Howard led the Buckeyes on 3 scoring drives to make it a 17-10 game. After they both exchanged field goals, and it's 20-13, Penn State, gets the ball. And they make a couple big plays. Al had a nice 31-yard pass to Warren to get them in position to get to the 40. And then on a 3rd and 6, they did a run with Warren, who's a tight end, who's going to be a real special player, I think, at the next level. He's really good. But we've seen Kyle Brady, so you don't know how good Penn State tight ends always are. But Fryermuth's pretty good, so we'll see what happens there. Yep. And they got a 1st and goal from the 3. Penn State ran it 3 times with Allen to get to the 1, and on 4th down, they tried to pass, and they did not complete it. Ohio State then ran out the clock. Penn State had nothing left. Franklin 1-10 against Ohio State, including 8 straight losses. Penn State cannot get over the hump against Ohio State. They are still ranked. They are still probably in pretty good shape to get into the tournament. Indiana's in great shape. They play Ohio State in a couple of weeks on the road. That'll be their big test. Oregon, we already talked about being in great shape. And Ohio State, obviously. So they are really in good way to get 4 teams in unless Penn State collapses. I think the only team that could collapse is Penn State. I don't expect Indiana to lose the old Oaken bucket to Purdue, Gino. I think Indiana wins that one, despite the rivalry. And I think that Penn State's the only team that could possibly slip up here. But I think they're really safe with 4, and there's no 5th team even sniffing around. It's 4 teams, that's it, and they're all good enough to get in. Oregon, Ohio State was probably the game of the year. The first time they played each other, maybe Alabama, Georgia. You could toss a coin on that one. So even though Oregon will probably be the 1 seed unless they play in the championship game and Ohio State beats them, it's 2 teams that are really, really equal. And Big Ten has a real good shot of winning the national championship this year. They're going to be right there with the SEC, which Kev's going to get into right now.
Yeah, so the SEC was actually fairly quiet this week. We talked
Not
about
for you, Kev.
We talked about 8 teams last week. Missouri being the last one. They did make it to the 24th out of the 25. But them, LSU, Alabama, and Texas were all off last week. Ole Miss took care of Arkansas 63-31. Jackson Dart 515 and 6 touchdowns.
They had nearly 700 yards of offense in that game. And by the way, even Missouri at 24 is a 3-point underdog at home to Oklahoma, who's not ranked. I'm just saying where the odds makers think of Missouri might be a little different than where the polls think of them. Sorry, Kevin.
I think Missouri the last couple of weeks, they've been struggling a lot. Brady Cook's been in and out of the lineup. They got killed by Alabama 2 weeks ago, 37-0. So they're hanging on by a thread. I mean, if they lose this week to Oklahoma, they're done, no doubt. Tennessee gets by Kentucky 28-18. Sampson, another good game, 140 yards and 2 touchdowns there. Tennessee did what they had to do and win. Not that impressive, but they got the win. Darren?
Kentucky is an interesting team because they get blown out by teams that you don't think of very good, and then they take Georgia down to the gun. They give Tennessee fits. They win at Ole Miss. Kentucky is the most impossible team to predict in the SEC, and it's what South Carolina blew them out in Lexington. So I mean, it blew them out. I mean, Kentucky wasn't even a threat.
It wasn't even close. Yeah.
It wasn't even close. And then they almost beat Georgia. They almost beat Tennessee on the road, and then they win at Ole Miss. I mean, they're impossible to figure out. Vandy's the funnest team in the conference, but Kentucky is the weirdest
most
team.
Maddening, weirdest.
They're just a weird squad.
Georgia got the win 34-20 over Florida. Beck was awful early, threw 3 picks, but bounced back 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. The big thing there was DJ Lagway, got hurt early for Florida. They were down to their third-string quarterback. And once Georgia realized, if we stop turning the damn ball over, we're just going to win because we've got more talent at this point. And that's what Georgia did. They took care of Florida 34-20. And then the one upset
It's all you, Kev.
in beautiful Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia, South Carolina. And I was there. What an atmosphere. What a game. I tell you, I think Elko kind of screwed over Texas A&M a little bit as well. Just give a little recap. Carolina wins 44-20. Opening kickoff, they take it down, score the touchdown drive. A&M's first possession, they get 4th and 1 at their own 34. Go for it. Turn the ball over on downs. They stuff them. Touchdown. South Carolina coming back the other way, 14-0. Now they do bounce back 20-20 at halftime. Amari Daniels had a beautiful 56-yard touchdown run where he got through the hole and was untouched. And Randy Bond, their kicker, had field goals of 52 and 55. But then in the second half, A&M punts. South Carolina responds with a touchdown drive. And just like the first quarter, down by 7, A&M has 4th down at their own 31, 4th and 1, and go for it again. And South Carolina stuffs them again. And South Carolina turns that possession into a field goal. And they're up by 10, thanks to 10 points handed to them by A&M. And then you can see as the game's progressing, and I'm sitting there watching it, and we're getting down to the 5-minute mark of the fourth quarter, and the crowd was getting antsy. And then they scored a touchdown. Sellers hit Joshua Simons for 57 yards with 3 minutes left to go up 37-20. And you could tell the crowd, everybody was pushing down. And once that clock hit, I think about 14 seconds because they started the handshakes then, here comes the crowd. And here comes the student section rushing the field. And South Carolina pulled away with a 44-20 win. Sellers 244 and 2 touchdowns, plus 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. And Raheem Sanders 144 and 2 touchdowns. South Carolina shut out A&M in the second half and basically dropped A&M right now out of the college playoffs there. They're down to the 14th seed and really put a hurt on them. Texas A&M is now left with their big game against Texas being their season.
Yep. Yeah, SEC is again in a similar vein to the Big Ten. There are teams that have to battle each other, but they all have losses. Yeah. They didn't all beat up. They beat each other up a little bit, and they all stumbled somewhere, which makes it a little bit different than the Big Ten, where the 4 teams look almost all secure. Maybe Penn State, unless Indiana falls apart completely. The SEC, you got lose or leave title match this week. You're saying to yourself, you're probably kicking yourself saying, South Carolina, we win that LSU game, we're still alive for this. And instead we're not. Kentucky, we talked about as a maddening team. Vandy does good things, does bad things at the same time. Georgia, inconsistent. The fact that game against Florida with their third-string quarterback was close is an indictment on them. Ole Miss loses at home to Kentucky, and then they put up 700 yards against Arkansas. They could have had 800 if they didn't stop playing offense in the fourth quarter. The SEC is kind of the SEC. There's a lot of teams fighting for their lives here, Kev.
I mean, take a look at with those top 8 teams in the CFP rankings. They've got 2 non-conference losses between them. Texas A&M opening day against Notre Dame, and LSU opening day against USC, which doesn't look as good with the way USC's fallen off.
Yeah, they're 4-5 now.
But that's it for non-conference losses. They've beaten each other up a little bit. This week you've got the big Georgia at Ole Miss, like you mentioned, Darren. You've got Alabama and LSU. Still looking forward a couple weeks from now. Tennessee still goes to Georgia. Last game of the season, you still have Texas at Texas A&M. So lots of big matchups still to come in the SEC. Still a lot that can happen. I mean, you're still looking at probably having 3 or 4 probably from the SEC getting in, though.
No, I'd be stunned if they don't get the 4. But right now, just a note of interest, both Boise State and Notre Dame would qualify right now. So there'd be 2 teams that are not in the power conferences, even though Notre Dame's a power team, that would have a shot at getting in, which is really interesting. We'll see how that falls. But the playoff again, first week, we're going to see another team that had a tough week this week. Navy was officially, I think, eliminated if they lost to Rice. The game was delayed by like 3 hours because of lightning, but Rice was 2-6 coming into this game, and that pretty much ends the Navy dream. This week, bunch of big games.
Army's still alive, though.
They got North Texas this week, which is not a layup, by the way. North Texas is pretty good.
It's really going to depend on Daly's status here because he missed last week against Air Force. Army was still able to pull it out 20-3. But I thought Army got a little bit of a raw deal. They were 25th in the CFP rankings.
Well, listen, they haven't beaten anybody.
They're Army. They're 8-0.
Their Army 8-0, and their best win is against nobody. And that's the problem, unfortunately. They're going to have to beat Navy. They're going to have to beat Notre Dame probably to get in.
Yep.
And that's just the way it's going to work, unfortunately. This week, I mean, Clemson has to win at Vatech to keep their dream alive. Iowa State has to win at Kansas to keep their dream alive. Army has to win at North Texas to keep their dream alive. Colorado has to win at Texas Tech to keep their dream alive. Indiana hosts Michigan in a team that they never really beat, so they have to show that they can beat Michigan and keep that momentum going. Otherwise, they could get a 2-game losing streak back-to-back with Ohio State. South Carolina Vandy's a good game. 2 interesting teams where Vandy's the ranked team, South Carolina's the non-ranked team, and South Carolina's the 4-point favorite on the road.
In Vandy,
and BYU visits Utah, which is always a rivalry that you never know what's going to happen there. And then we have 2 big ones, Gino. I know you've been waiting for this one. 3:30 afternoon game. We go to the Grove. We go to Oxford, where Georgia, number 2 ranked Georgia, comes to town to take on number 16 Ole Miss. Georgia coming off the win against Florida. Ole Miss coming off the really impressive win at Arkansas. Georgia 2.5-point favorite on the road, Gino. Ole Miss needs it. They lose, they're done. This is it. This is their season. Georgia still has a little room to wiggle. Ole Miss does not. Getting 2.5 Ole Miss or laying 2.5 Georgia. Which way you going, Gino?
I'm going Georgia. 4 in a row, including the win versus Texas. It's under a field goal. Take Georgia minus 2.5.
Kevy?
Yeah, boy, talk about a tough line here. Georgia could be looking ahead a little bit to Tennessee also. Ole Miss looked so good last week, Dart with the 500 yards. But I think the fact that it's the afternoon and because it's still less than a field goal, I still have a feeling Georgia's going to pull this one out. And so I'm going to give the 2.5 reluctantly.
I'm going to go against you because I picked Ole Miss to win the championship, so I might as well ride them until they die. I'm going to take Ole Miss getting the 2.5 at home.
Yep.
This is an interesting game. Georgia's loss was to Alabama because Milroe was able to run. Jackson Dart does have the ability to run. That's going to be the game. If Georgia can stop the running quarterback and the running game altogether, Georgia will win. If Mississippi can get the ball rolling on the ground, Ole Miss will win. Ole Miss also, Beck threw 3 picks last week, all under pressure. Ole Miss is the second in the nation in pressure rate. Their defensive line is excellent. They're not great in the secondary. It's going to be offensive line of Georgia versus it's going to be the lines. Okay. If Ole Miss can run, they can win. If Georgia, if Georgia can protect their quarterback Beck, they can win. So I'm going to take Ole Miss. And in the other feature, this is a true loser leave town match. This is like a Texas death match, Gino. We're going to Death Valley in the Bayou Bengals. Okay. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Number 11, Alabama visits number 14, LSU. These are 2 teams that used to be ranked in the top 5. Now they're fighting to see who's going to stay alive to get into the college football playoff with a 12-team expanded look. Bama, 3-point favorite, Gino, on the road at LSU, under the lights. Death Valley. Who takes it?
Okay, first off, spread is 2.5.
Well, it was 3 right before the game started.
Right
before our show started. I just checked on
just looked it up.
We ticked off. I checked at 8 o'clock.
Just looked it up. DraftKings, 2.5 is the spread.
Oh, that means he wants Bama. Otherwise, he wouldn't be fighting for that half point.
LSU
You can laugh all you want.
LSU trying to bounce back after their loss to Texas A&M. Unfortunately, I don't think this is enough. Alabama, minus 2.5. I'll take Alabama.
Kev? What do you want the half point, Kev?
It's Brian Kelly. I feel like Brian Kelly always seems to come up small in these big games. This is a really huge game for LSU. But I think under the lights, Saturday night, at home in the SEC, Alabama, this is not the typical Alabama team. I think Kelly gets the team playing. I think LSU finds a way to pull out the win. So I'm going to take LSU plus a 2.5 at home on a Saturday night in Baton Rouge.
Brian Kelly has not lost a home game on a Saturday night, and he won't this week. I think LSU wins this game. I think it's close. I think it's really close. I think LSU wins it outright. I think they're going to win by a field goal. So I'm going to take the two dogs in the SEC, the two home dogs this week. Gino, give me two others that you love this week.
Okay. My first one, I'm taking Boise State at home minus the 24 against Nevada. Listen, they usually blow out bad teams. Okay, they've put up 54 times already this season. I think this is the fifth time they put up 50. Boise State at home minus the 24. And my fourth game, I think Penn State rebounds after last week's loss to Ohio State. Penn State at home minus 13.5. It's 2 touchdowns versus Washington. Penn State is my fourth pick. Kev, where are you going?
I'm going, I think, Big 12 here. Iowa State's favored by 3 at Kansas. I know it's at Kansas, but I think Iowa State pulled this one out. I'm going to take Iowa State minus the 3. And my other game, I'm going to stick in the Big 12. I'm going to go for the home upset here. I think Texas Tech gives Colorado a game. I think Texas Tech can beat Colorado. Something tells me that Colorado, I think they're a little overranked at 20. I don't think they're that good. I think Texas Tech finds a way to pull off this upset win, getting 3.5 at home.
You guys were nice enough to take my third, fourth, and fifth pick. So here we go.
You're very welcome.
I'm going to take the Fighting Irish laying 26 against Florida State. I think that they're going to have to win and that they try to stay in that top 10. I think they're going to try to hurt Florida State, who just isn't very good right now. I think Notre Dame will find a way to pull away. Not impressed with their offense. I think their defense will hold Florida State to 7 or 10 points, and I think they'll find a way to put up, 35. I don't know how, but I think they will. And I'm going to take Washington State laying 20.5 against Utah State. Washington State trying to fight their way into this tournament a little bit. I don't think they have enough to get there, but as long as you keep winning, you're still alive. I think that this will be a game that'll go over the 69 as well. But I think Washington State could put up 45 to 50 in this one. So I like 2 big spreads, Washington State and Notre Dame. Once again, thank you for taking Penn State, Texas Tech, and Boise State, boys. And that'll do it for college football.
And before this week's games, Gino 19-13, Kev 16-16, Darren 14-18.
I'm killing
us. All right, let's move over. We're gonna just touch on NBA, NHL real quick. NBA just getting it going. There's only about 7-8 games being played so far. Knicks are 3-3. Brooklyn is 4-4. Best record so far, Cleveland is 8-0, Boston 7-1. OKC 7-0, Phoenix and Golden State 6-1. Kev, any highlights?
Golden State pulling off a big win at Boston tonight, 118-112. That just went final. Okay. So, but it's amazing. You mentioned Cleveland, OKC, Boston, Phoenix, and Golden State have separated themselves. Everybody else is 4-3 or worse. Believe it or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And 2 of the worst teams, Milwaukee's 1-6. I mean, Giannis is playing. The only guy they're missing is Chris Middleton, and they just can't get out of the way. They're 1-6.
And they missed a lot of games last year, Chris Middleton, too. It's not like they're not used to not playing with him.
Yep. And the other one, Philly's 1-5. Embiid hasn't played yet. Paul George hasn't played yet. Or maybe he played it over the weekend, I forget. But the big controversy with Philly was Embiid. He's had issues with this one reporter. The reporter wrote a story about him blasting Embiid, mentioning Embiid's son, Embiid's dead brother. And Embiid had enough and went after the guy and shoved him. And Embiid gets a 3-game suspension. To me, you personally, as an athlete, you are fair game for a reporter to nitpick on your game. But once you start bringing in a young son and a dead brother, I have no problem with Embiid. He's lucky it was only a shove. I can't blame Embiid for getting pissed off at the guy when you start bringing in family members, especially a young kid and your dead brother. I mean, that was uncalled for by the sports writer. Um, and then Embiid gets a 3-game suspension because the NBA has to suspend him for touching a reporter. But
Yep.
I can't blame him for doing that. But Philly's in a mess right now. What do you think about the reporter
Well,
situation there?
the reporter's wrong. I mean, you really can't get personal. It should never be personal. It's supposed to be a job, and that this became personal. A lot of people think that the suspension should have been that they would have forced Embiid to play 3 straight games, and that would have been
That may
much
be
more
more.
difficult than him having to sit out 3 games. And the thing about it, by the way, with these two teams struggling, Giannis is second in the league, averaging 31 points a game going into today. Tyrese Maxey's third in the league, averaging 30.2. So they're getting points from their stars. They're just not getting enough from everybody else. But yeah, Knicks and Nets, both teams battling, trying to get their footing. Nets are actually 4-4. They're okay. I mean, better than you probably thought they would. The Knicks not up to par, but I'd be stunned if they don't kick it up a notch. G, I don't know. I expect the Knicks to kind of find their footing.
Nick signed free agent Matt Ryan, by the way.
He used to play quarterback for the Falcons. He was pretty good back then. So now let's see what he can do with throwing the passes.
I think this is a different Matt Ryan.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I haven't seen the picture yet.
He shot 45% from 3-point last year. So
Matty Ice was good at BC. People don't realize.
All right. Let's move to the NHL real quick. So locally, Devils have played 15 games, Rangers 11, Islanders 13 at this point. New Jersey's at 18 points, Rangers are at 17, Islanders are at 12. The leader right now by far is Winnipeg. They're 12-1-0. They're at 24 points. Florida's at 19. The Kings are at 19. A couple of teams at 18, 17. Any NHL points, guys? Darren?
Winnipeg has a plus 32 goal differential so far. It's really freaking impressive. Next highest team is 20. Montreal, and a lot of the teams started winning games. So Montreal has the worst, minus 18 goal differential. San Jose minus 17. 5 guys have 10 goals in the league, so it's a little balanced up there. McKinnon and Makar lead the league in points, both with Colorado with 25 and 23 respectively. Makar hurt, though, last 2 nights ago, so we'll see what happens with him. Kev?
And all that, Colorado's only 6-7 this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Despite those 2 guys.
And the Islanders are minus 8, but they had a nice win last night in overtime. Hopefully this can spur them on. They actually put the puck in the net a couple times, which has been, again, it's the growing problem with the Islanders. They just have to be able to score the puck. The goaltending will always be solid. They need to put the puck in the damn net. Devils are seeing a little resurgence because of their goaltending. And the Rangers are plus 18. Plus 20 in goal differential. Second in the league, 8-2-1. You really can't argue with them. Only Carolina's really been better in their division at 9-2. So
yeah, with the Islanders, the big problem right now is not putting the puck in the net, like you said. Kyle Palmieri leads the team in scoring, and now they've got Matt Barzal on long-term injured reserve with the upper body injury,
the dreaded upper body.
And they also have, make sure I get the right one. Pelech is on IR as well.
Yep.
Pelech is out. Riley's day to day. Romanov's day to day. They're hurting on the defensive end again with some of the injuries. And like I said, losing Barzal, even though he's been underperforming this year, is a big blow to the struggling offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They need some goals. They need to put the puck in the net. So.
Yep.
All right, Darren. Why don't you touch on a little college basketball?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. We've seen a couple upsets early on, but just really wanted to talk about the game of the week so far, which was, I'm sorry, I had the horse racing in front of me. Just give me 1 second. Gonzaga blew out Baylor. Number 6 blew out number 8, 101-63. This is supposed to be a competitive matchup, and it wasn't. There was a big posterizing of Few's son, who got a couple of garbage minutes at the end. He got dunked on pretty badly. But Gonzaga looks like they're for real right now. 13th, just the ranked teams that lost. I know South Carolina lost 2 and a couple other upsets, but Texas A&M lost to UCF on the road, 64-61. Texas A&M always seems to be one of those basketball teams that's really good and plays well against good teams and seems to play down to others during the entire, regime there. And let's see if they're able to rebound. Number 19, Texas lost in Vegas to Ohio State, 80-72. And tonight, Columbia beat Nova. South Carolina lost an early game. So there's a few teams falling apart. DePaul survived against a bad Southern Indiana team. Needed a 3 with 1 second left to send that to overtime, and they found a way to win it in overtime. And if you are a college basketball fan and you wanted to watch opening night and you put on Fox Sports, they do this whip around thing where they don't show you any parts. They show you little parts of every game, and it flat out sucks. I'm putting it on to watch a team play. I'm not putting it on to watch these guys in the broadcast sitting there and tell us, give me a preview. I want to watch St. John's play. I was hoping to watch the Johnnies play. I got a few minutes of it. I was hoping to watch Stony Brook play against Marquette. Got a couple minutes of it. The whip around is damn stupid. It's not even like they're showing. It's not even like they're showing constant action. They're showing themselves in the freaking booth. Nobody gives a crap.
Everybody thinks they can do the red zone,
and you can't. It's just stupid. But I mean, college basketball just on the way. There's a lot of big games coming up soon. But the fact of the matter is that we're nowhere near talking about this sport in any kind of depth until the new year. So that was it for that.
All right. And let's touch on the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we had the $7 million Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. And the winner was Sierra Leone over Fierceness. First time Fierceness had the lead at the top of the stretch and lost in his career. Sierra Leone finally gets one of these big competitors. He's been running well almost all year, competitive in the money coming in. The pace wasn't always there. Pace was there this time. And I got to tell you, he ran the best buyer of any horse over the weekend. He had a 112 buyer number, which is unbelievable. Great win. Paid $15.80 to win. The exacta with him, the 11.9 with him and Fierce is $59.60. The triple, you throw in the 1. Forever Young, the Japanese horse. Again, always, I mean, he finished second in the Derby, finished third in this race, and he's won every other race he's ever run. So he's always been pretty good. Triple paid $130 and $129. Okay, so it was pretty wild. For the whole card, and I'll let you jump in on this in a minute, Kev. We had a couple of long shots. Citizen Bull at 16-1 won the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Soul of an Angel at 19-1 won the Filly and Mare Sprint. And Starlust at 33-1, Gino, took the Turf Sprint. Exacta paid $696.60 for $2, and a $1 triple paid $3,246. On the complete other end, Torpedo Anna, who went off at 2-5, much as Kevin and I projected, won kind of for fun. It wasn't like a blowout win, but the horse was never really pressed.
Comfortably in front the whole way.
She breezed. It was like watching a horse breeze in a workout. Queen Victoria, not far behind, 3-5, won the Juvenile Filly Turf in a nice race. Rebels Romance and Immersive, who were 2-1 favorites. Immersive was co-favorite. Won the Longines Breeders' Cup Turf and the NetJet Breeders' Cup Juvenile, same way. It's 2 great days of racing. You had enough upsets to keep it interesting. You had enough favorites to feel like things were going all right, and you had enough horses in the middle from 4-1 to 10-1 to really feel like there was betting for everyone. A lot of money to be made this week. I thought it was 2 pretty good days of racing. Kev?
Yeah, too bad I didn't box my top 3 in the Classic for the exacta.
You know what? I had
Sierra Leone first and third.
I had it.
That would have been a nice box.
I did not hit the exacta. I did not have Sierra Leone on top, so I screwed that up. I thought that he was close, but not get there.
But I thought the Juvenile was interesting. Citizen Bull, like you said, at 15, almost 16-1, and Gaming was second. Both are Baffert entries. Both are gearing up for the Kentucky Derby next year, which would be big because Baffert's 3-year suspension will be up next year. He can go back to the Derby. So he's got 2 horses that have a shot. And he had one of his other horses there finish a little bit further back, one that was a little bit more favored.
I'm blanking on the name, but I know you're talking about.
Name too, but
I didn't write it down.
Baffert's got the horses again for the Derby.
And he always will.
Yep.
All right. Anything else before we move to NFL picks?
No, I think that covers me.
All right. Kev, 17-9-1. Darren, 12-14-1. And I am a lowly 10-17 going into week number 10. Kev, you get to start it off this week.
I didn't like a lot this week. I'm going to start off Bills lane 4 at the Colts. I think the Bills are just better. Flacco looked bad last week for the Colts. The Bills had coming off a big win against got Dolphins there. I think the Bills find a way to cover the 4 points there. Game number 2, I don't think the coaching change is going to matter. I've got the Falcons -3.5 at the Saints. I think they covered that one easily. And my third game, God, I hate taking all these home road favorites are the worst, but I've got basically all of them. I'm going to take the Vikings -4, the Jaguars. Jaguars have not played well this year. Vikings have been struggling a little bit lately, but I think they bounce back this week. I think they find a way to win at the Jaguars. I'll lay the 4.
Okay. Darren, you're up next.
All right. I'm going to go head-to-head with Kevin, game 1. I'm taking the Colts plus the 4 against the Bills. I think that the Colts are a different team when they're home. And I think that Buffalo does allow teams to stay in games. I don't think their defense is that good. I don't think their pass rush is that good. And I think that the Cold O-line will keep Flacco upright and give him a chance to pick apart that defense. Number 2, I'm going to take the Chargers laying 7.5 against the Titans. I just think they're better. I don't think the Chargers will score a ton. I just don't think the Titans will score a ton either. And number 3, wow, I'm torn on this one. I'm going to take the Steelers +3 against Washington. I think that the Steelers are going to I think that they're going to hit. I think they're going to hit Daniels a little bit. I'm anxious to see how Daniels plays against a physical defense like Pittsburgh. I want to see how he does. He's going to be able to run circles in a lot of ways, but at the same point in time, Pittsburgh's physical front might give Washington's O-line a little trouble, in my opinion. I still think Washington might escape this one with a 1 or 2 point win. I'm not thinking Pittsburgh wins it outright, but I do think that I'll take the points, though, in this one. Like you said, Kev, I don't love the games this week, so just finding 3 was hard enough. Gino?
On a side note, I am very uneasy about Pittsburgh game this week with Washington.
Okay.
My first game, I'm taking Philadelphia -6.5 against Dallas. Philly is just on a roll right now. Dallas is really bad right now. No Dak. They're going to be up against the wall in this game. My second game, I'm taking the best team in the NFC. I'm taking Detroit -3.5 in Houston. They've been putting up a lot of points. I think this is a time they're going to put up another 25, 30 points on this defense. Give me Detroit in my second game. My third game, this is where I've been all over the map. I'm going to take – wow, I really don't want to do this. I'm taking Arizona Cardinals -1.5 against the Jets at home. Don't want to have to do it, but I'm going there. I'm taking Arizona -1.5. I don't think this is a blowout in any way, shape, or form. This is like a 3-point game somewhere. I think Arizona winds up pulling this out. And those are the picks for Week 10 in the NFL.
Boys, any points before we wrap up? All right, we are the Sports Kings from Queens. I'm Darren here with Gino, here with Kevin, talking about the wonderful, wild, and wacky world of sports. A wacky world where it seems like the World Series was 4 months ago and it was just last week, so we're finally talking about it. Please download the podcast anywhere you can get a podcast, whether it be an Apple product, Spotify, TuneIn, Audio Boom, whatever you like. You can get all of our information. We're also on YouTube, which is really exciting for us, so you get to see our beautiful faces and our beautiful backgrounds. Kevin at William Bryce. Gino loves his football background, and I'm at the Bing tonight. And, we do a lot on social media. Like, subscribe, share, do all the things that you can. Let everybody know about the podcast. That's how we grow. And without any further ado, may your sports be with you.